legs went weak. Ben instinctively moved closer, his expression shifting from concern to alertness. "Who is that?" he asked, his voice low. "I don't know," I whispered, feeling trapped between fear and confusion. The existence of this unseen threat had just taken another turn. All I could think was, this was no longer just about tracking. Someone was close. I had to figure out what they wanted, and fast. My phone buzzed again, pulling my focus back to the screen. It was another message. "I'm closer than you think." My heart raced. What did they want from me? I couldn't help but feel like I was backed into a corner. "Okay, we need to disable any tracking," Ben said, his brows furrowing, "and you need to stay off your phone. They could be using your device against you." He quickly threw together a plan, pulling a few supplies from his desk. I watched him work, grateful for his calmness in the chaos. "First, we need to check your bag. They might have slipped something else in," he suggested. I reluctantly opened my backpack, scanning through papers and my laptop. Nothing seemed off, just a jumble of old receipts and chargers. As I rifled through my things, something cold fell onto the floor. I bent down, and my breath caught in my throat. It was a small black device, one I had never seen before. "What is this?" I asked, picking it up. It looked like an AirTag, but felt heavier. Ben leaned closer, his face pale. "That doesn't belong to you. It must be theirs." My stomach twisted. So they've been tracking me all along? Looks like it. I understood now why I had that nagging feeling all day. It wasn't paranoia. "What do we do with it?" I asked, feeling sick. "Let me see if it has a signal or any identifiable information." He took it from me and started connecting cables to his computer. The screen lit up with data, and I felt an unsettling mix of anxiety and dread. As he worked, the room fell silent except for the hum of the device. Then, out of nowhere, a loud noise outside made us both jump. It sounded like a shout, followed by hurried footsteps. We exchanged looks, immediately sensing the danger outside. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, my heart pounding in my chest. "Yeah," he replied, glancing out the window. "We need to hunker down. If they're out there, we don't want to give them a reason to come in." He moved to the back window, the tension building between us. I nodded and backed away from the door, scanning for a place to hide. Then I saw it, a closet at the end of the hallway. "Let's hide in there," pointing. "If they come in, we'll have more time to react." Ben met my eyes, a tinge of hesitation creeping in. "You're sure about this?" No choice. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. We crouched in the cramped space, hearts racing as the muted sounds outside faded. I strained to hear any footsteps, any sign that someone was getting closer. Then my phone vibrated again, breaking the suffocating silence. My heart stopped. "Don't answer," Ben urged, but I couldn't resist. I quietly pulled it from my pocket, ready to read a message that felt like a death sentence. On the screen, it read, "I know you're hiding, and I'm coming for you." Panic flooded me again. I had to do something, but what? My mind raced, each warning flashing like a neon sign in my head. They knew I was here. They were getting closer. I didn't know how much time we had left. "Ben," I whispered, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "What if we get caught? What do we do?" He looked at me, his eyes wide. "We'll think of something. We just need to stay quiet." His determination was reassuring, but it did little to calm my nerves. I leaned back against the wall of the closet, feeling the cramped space close in. Just then, I heard a loud crashing sound, followed by a voice, a man's voice. "I know you're in here. Come out and we can talk." My breath hitched. Was he serious? Talk? It was absurd. "Stay still," Ben murmured, pulling me closer into the shadows. The doorknob rattled as the voice continued. "You can't hide forever. I can make this easy for you." I glanced at Ben, panic rising again. What does he want? I pressed a hand to my mouth, fighting the urge to scream. "I don't know, but I don't plan on finding out," he whispered back, keeping his gaze locked on the door. I could feel the tension mounting inside the closet, the air thickening with dread. Then, almost against my will, I reached for my phone again. Ignoring Ben's warning, I unlocked it, desperate to find some form of communication beyond the guy outside. As I did, another message popped up. "Stop playing games. I'll find you." I almost dropped the phone, my heart racing. "We have to leave," I said, urgency bleeding into my voice. "I'm not staying here while he knows we're in here." "What? No," Ben hissed, grabbing my arm. "If we leave, he'll see us. We need a plan." I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "What if we create a diversion? I can text someone, make it look like I'm somewhere else." "Are you crazy? If they track your phone, you're leading them right to you." A low chuckle echoed from outside. "I hope you're not planning anything stupid. I'm already 5 steps ahead of you." I could feel my heart pounding my chest. Fear gripped me like a vice. "What do we do then?" Before Ben could respond, the sound of footsteps made my stomach drop. I held my breath as the door creaked open, light spilling into the closet. "Here, kitty kitty," the voice teased, mocking. "I just want to talk." I glanced at Ben, and I could see the fear mirrored in his eyes. If we didn't act now, we might not get another chance. And then, in my mind, an idea sparked. "We need to get the device," I whispered urgently. "It might have a tracker we can use against him." Ben's expression shifted, understanding my thoughts. "I'll distract him. You grab it." Just as the man took a step closer, I nodded, readying myself for what was about to unfold. Let's do it. This was our chance. But just as I was about to make my move, the dim light flickered and everything went dark. I felt a rush of cold air sweep over me as the room plunged into darkness. My heart raced. I could barely see, but the faint outline of Ben was still next to me. "Are you okay?" he breathed, the tremor in his voice matching my own. "I can't see anything," I replied, panic creeping back in. "What happened?" The man outside laughed, the sound low and menacing, echoing off the walls. "Did you think it would be that easy? I own this place, and I can turn off the power whenever I want." "Ben," I whispered, feeling the walls closing in. "We have to get out, now." He nodded, and I could hear him shifting towards the door. The footsteps had stopped, and I strained to listen. The only sound was the steady thump of my heart. I couldn't let fear overcome me, but the darkness felt suffocating. "Let's go," Ben said suddenly, and I felt him grab my arm as he pulled me back from the doorway just as the dim light flickered back on. I squinted, trying to adapt to the brightness. The man stood there, a smirk plastered across his face. "Thought you could sneak out." He took a step closer, and panic surged through me again. I could see now. The device I needed was on a table near the window behind him. "Stand still," he barked, raising a hand. "I'm not here to play games." But Ben didn't hesitate. He edged closer to the door, his body tense. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice steady. "I just want a little chat, boys," the man replied, licking his lips. "You're in quite the situation, and I think we can come to an agreement." I clenched my fists, frustration boiling inside. "We don't want to talk," I shouted, surprising even myself. His gaze snapped to me, a brief flash of anger crossing his face. "Oh, but you will." That was my opening. "Ben, now!" I yelled, grabbing my courage. In one swift motion, I shoved past him and darted for the device. My fingers brushed against its cool surface just as I heard Ben shout something. I looked back, just in time to see the man lunging toward me. Time slowed. I snatched the device and spun around to face him, brandishing it. "Like a weapon!" "Stop right there!" I cried out, but my heart sank. I had no idea what to do with it. He stopped, uncertainty flickering over his face. "What are you going to do with that?" It won't save you." In that moment, I remembered the tracking features. Without wasting another second, I activated the device and hoped. "I can use this to track you, too. It might be the only way out." "You wouldn't dare," he spat. "You have no idea what you're getting into." I didn't care. I was desperate for some sort of leverage. "I have to make a call. I'll send out my location." Suddenly, the power flickered again, plunging us into darkness just as I hit the button. "Ben!" But the voice came louder now. "Did you think I wouldn't have a backup plan?" I felt a rush of dread. Someone was in the house, and this wasn't over yet. The darkness felt like a living creature wrapping around me. I could barely breathe, disoriented. My fingers clutched the device tightly, and my heart pounded like a drum. A faint, rhythmic ticking emerged, sending shivers down my spine. What had I signed up for? "Ben!" I called out, panic bubbling in my throat. He had to be close. We needed a plan. "Right here," he whispered, not far from me. I could hear the rustling of his clothes as he moved. "What's going on?" "Just a flicker. We can't let him corner us. Did you hear that? There's another person," I said, swallowing hard. I activated the tracking, but it might not work without the power. "Then we need to escape now," Ben said resolutely. "If we're lucky, he's still figuring out what this place looks like in the dark." Just then, I felt a warm breath on my neck. Instinctively, I spun around, raising the device like a shield. My voice trembled. "Stay back!" And there it was, the man's confident chuckle echoing through the darkness. "You think you can escape from me, foolish." I stood my ground. "What do you want from us?" "Only what you both can give me," he replied, amusement dripping from his words. "Access to that little toy you're holding, for starters. It should be worth a lot more than just your lives." The threat hung in the air, and I clenched my jaw, thoughts racing. The device would show any location ping. If I could send my coordinates, someone might come. But then I couldn't shake the sound of footsteps approaching. The house was alive with danger. I pressed the button again, hoping it would send a signal. "Ben, keep an eye out. We have to be ready to move." "Got it," he replied, his voice low. I sensed the man's figure shifting closer, the shadows bending around him. "You think I'm going to let you use that? You're out of your league." Before I could respond, the lights flickered back on, and I blinked against the light. The man was barely 2 steps away, rage twisting his features. I was frozen, uncertainty crashing over me. Then, amidst the chaos, a loud crash resonated from behind us. A door had been flung open, and I turned to see the faint outline of another figure in the hallway. "Get off me!" a voice shouted. It was unexpected, but familiar. My stomach dropped. "Sarah?" I realized. It was another friend. The weight of relief flooded through me before the reality of our situation set in. We were still trapped, and now there were 2 men against us. The man's expression soured. "You brought company, did you?" He lunged forward, but Ben didn't hesitate. He rushed to meet him, a blur of movement. "Run!" Ben yelled to us, and in a heartbeat we darted toward the door, adrenaline overriding fear. Then everything went dark again. The lights cut out one last time, and panic surged within me as I slammed into something solid. The room spun, and I stammered, searching for Ben or Sarah. I barely caught a glimpse of the man, but his dreadful laughter echoed, brightening my concern. "I'll find you." Someone was in the house, someone we didn't see. And suddenly, the fight for our lives turned into a frantic race to escape the shadows that seemed to close in around us. I stumbled backward, barely managing to get my bearings. The darkness enveloped me again, thick and terrifying. In that moment of confusion, I felt a hand grip my arm. It was Ben. "Keep moving," he urged, his breath hot against my ear. I nodded, blood pounding in my ears. My foot found the edge of something, a table, and I fought to keep my balance. Surrounded by darkness, I focused on the sound of Ben's footsteps ahead of me, following him like a lifeline. Then, without warning, a low growl broke the silence. My heart dropped. "What was that?" I whispered, panic rising. "Just keep moving," Ben said again, more insistent this time. I pressed forward, desperation fueling my instincts. Suddenly, my foot hit something soft. I looked down to see Sarah's silhouette on the floor. "What happened?" I asked, crouching down to assess her. "Tripped over a box," she panted, her voice shaky but determined. "Are we going to get out of here?" I wished I knew. "We have to try. Stay close." As we pressed forward, the growling grew louder. It was unsettling, more animalistic than human. I glanced back, heart racing. I didn't want to acknowledge the presence tailing us, but I could feel it, creeping, lurking. "I have an idea," I said, hesitating at a door. "Let's try this." I pushed it open, not knowing what lay beyond. The room was dimly lit by the faint glow of an emergency exit sign. I felt a flicker of hope. "It's a stairwell," Ben said, already moving ahead of me. "Let's go." As we hurried inside, I could hear the growling transforming into words, taunting, vicious. "You think you can hide? Go, go!" I urged, pushing Sarah to move faster. We climbed the stairs 2 at a time, my lungs burning like fire. That voice chased us, not just a threat, but a predator relishing the hunt. When we reached a landing, I realized there was a small window at the end of the corridor. I ran to it, pulling my phone from my pocket. It flickered to life, and I quickly checked for a signal. Panic clawed at my throat when I saw it was weak. "Ben, we might be able to send a message," I exclaimed, guilt creeping in. "But we have to be quick." "Good idea, but we also need to keep moving," Ben replied, glancing back down the stairwell. I started typing, desperate to let someone know we were in trouble. My fingers didn't cooperate, shaking from fear. That's when I saw it, a small, white object on the floor. An Apple AirTag. I scooped it up, my heart skipping a beat. It was a tracker. Could it help us? "What if we could use this? Maybe it can lead us out," I said breathlessly. Before I could explain further, the growling returned, louder this time. My stomach twisted. We had no time. I shoved the AirTag into my pocket and took a deep breath. "Let's go!" I shouted, fueled by the urgency of the moment. We turned to run down the next set of stairs, but just as we did, the lights flickered on again. I froze, my eyes wide. There he was, the man standing at the bottom, blocking our escape. "Nowhere to run," he sneered, eyes glinting with malice. The moment felt heavy, charged with dread. I had hoped for a way out, but now there was nothing but the grim reality of our situation, and the realization that we had underestimated the darkness closing in on us. Ben stepped forward, a protective instinct igniting in his eyes. "Stay behind me," he ordered, voice steady. I wanted to obey, but the sight of that man sent icy tendrils of fear straight to my core. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. He laughed, a low, mocking sound that echoed in the stairwell. "You think you deserve to know? You're just pawns in a game far beyond your comprehension." My fists clenched at my sides as adrenaline surged through me. A game? This wasn't a game. It felt like a nightmare, and I wanted to wake up. "Let us go!" Sarah cried out, her voice shaky but fierce. The man took a step forward, and Ben instinctively pushed us back. "We're not playing any games here, buddy," he said, challenging him. "Then let's cut to the chase," the man sneered. "How brave of you all! But bravery won't save you. Only the smart get out alive." I couldn't shake the chill creeping down my spine. Ben's body blocked my view, but I felt the tension in the air like static. We needed to act, and fast. Ben, what do we do? I asked quietly, ready to follow his lead. We need to find a way around him, he said, scanning the area. There has to be another exit. That's when I noticed it. A door at the far end, partially ajar. A glimmer of hope sparked in my mind. What about that door? We could make a run for it. Before I could finish, the growling noise returned, rising in pitch, reverberating through the stairs. The man's expression twisted with rage, and I realized this was a signal for his next move. Running won't help you, he hissed as he lunged toward us, the darkness vibrating around him. Now! Ben shouted, grabbing my arm and pulling me back toward the door. We barreled toward it, the sound of our footsteps echoing against the walls. I reached for the handle and yanked it open, the door creaking in protest. We spilled out into another dimly lit corridor, but there was no time to catch our breath. The moment we were through, I glanced back. The man was right behind us, eyes wild and hungry. Panic surged back into my veins as I realized we couldn't outrun him forever. We dashed down the corridor, desperate for an exit or another way out. Ben glanced over his shoulder, then his eyes widened. There's a door up ahead. We need to get to it. I felt my heart race as we sprinted toward it. But then I heard a different sound. Thud, 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 growing louder. It wasn't just the man chasing us. It was something else, and it was right behind him. Go! Ben shouted again, urging Sarah and me forward. I reached for the door at the end of the corridor, but I hesitated. Hold on, I said, remembering the AirTag in my pocket. This was our chance. I took it out, fumbling with its settings, searching for a signal. As I looked up, the man was almost upon us, a twisted grin spreading across his face. Too late, he bellowed, but the door creaked open under my fingers. No time to think. We dashed through, and everything went dark again. An overwhelming, suffocating blackness that swallowed us whole. And then I heard it, a series of frantic beeps. The AirTag connecting to a signal. I had no idea what it meant, but it felt like a lifeline. Where are we? Sarah asked, her breath hitching. I don't know, I shouted back, trying to calm my racing mind. But we need to move. Whatever that was, it's not far behind. My gut twisted with fear as we pushed deeper into the unknown. But somehow, the AirTag felt like a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. I could only pray it would lead us to safety. The darkness around us was palpable, wrapping around like a heavy blanket. I could barely see, but I could hear our hurried breaths as we stumbled forward, adrenaline fueling each step. Where is this? Sarah? Questioned softly, but I didn't have an answer. The corridor felt endless, and dread loomed with every creak of the floorboards underneath us. I could hear the faint echo of footsteps, and the man's growl trailing behind us. He was still out there, still hunting. We have to find a way out, Ben urged, his voice steady despite the tension snaking through the air. I gripped the AirTag tightly in my pocket, wondering if it might lead us to an exit, or if it would only alert our pursuer to our location. Suddenly, the muffled thud of footsteps escalated, and I felt a surge of panic. He's getting closer, I blurted out, glancing back into the oppressive dark. My heart raced as I imagined his twisted smile materializing out of the shadows. Keep moving, Ben insisted. I felt his hand on my back, guiding me forward, even as the chill of unease crept down my spine. We rounded a corner, and I saw a soft light flickering ahead. Was it an exit, or merely another trap? As we approached the light, I noticed it was coming from a doorway at the end of the hall. There, I exclaimed, let's go! We rushed towards it, but just as we reached the door, I hesitated. The AirTag in my pocket vibrated unexpectedly, startling me. I pulled it out. The screen showed a flickering map, eerily directing us towards a location that seemed familiar. Wait, I heard myself say, it's pointing back towards my house. Ben's brow furrowed in confusion. What? We can't go there. That's where he wants us. Maybe not, I stammered, feeling a glimmer of hope. If it's signaling there, there might be a reason. It could be the only way to draw him away. But what if it's a trap? Sarah piped up, her eyes wide with fear. Didn't you see the map? We have to find out. I gripped the AirTag, my mind racing. It could be our way to escape, if we can lure him to the wrong place. Before they could argue further, the footsteps grew louder, echoing off the walls. Without thinking it through, I pivoted on my heel, bolting back the way we came. Come on! But Ben started, but I didn't give him room to finish. The pulsing vibration in my pocket felt reassuring as we dashed back down the corridor. I couldn't explain why, but something deep within urged me to trust it. We reached the moment of truth, a tall staircase leading upward. With no time to waste, we sprinted up, the steps creaking under our hurried weight. At the top, I spotted a window. It was small. We could barely fit one at a time, but it held the promise of fresh air and freedom. "Let's go!" I shouted, leaning against it. We scrambled into the narrow opening, the cool night air welcoming us. I heard the sound of frantic footsteps echoing from below. The man was getting closer, but we were almost free. "Quick!" Ben clamored, pushing me through. I felt the flat rooftop beneath my feet as I pulled Sarah through after me, and then Ben followed. "What if he comes up after us?" Sarah whispered, glancing over her shoulder, fear etched across her features. "Then we run," I replied, scanning the dark street below. I could still sense the man's presence somewhere down there. And then, from the shadows, I caught a glimpse of him, rage painted across his face as he stormed into the alley beneath us. "You think you can escape?" he bellowed, voice echoing through the still night air. "You're just prolonging the inevitable." As Sarah stared wide-eyed, my heart sank. That hollowed gaze, that laugh, it resonated through my chest, reeking of the darkness I felt creeping back in. "Now," Ben urged, his eyes a wild mix of determination and fear. "We have to go. Jump!" With no other options left, I moved. We leapt off the roof, landing on the grass below with painful thuds, but I barely registered the sting of the impact. We had to keep moving. "Run!" I cried, the adrenaline pushing me to my limits as we sprinted into the labyrinth of quiet streets. We zigzagged through the neighborhood, desperately putting distance between us and that lurking menace. However, I could still hear it, the persistent buzz of my phone. I glanced down. Another message flashed. "You can't escape. I will find you. You are mine." My stomach twisted in knots. The chase wasn't over. It had only just begun. But I refused to let that thought devour me. We ran until my lungs felt like they were on fire, darting around corners and down familiar paths. I realized we weren't just escaping a man. It felt like we were fleeing from something darker, undefined. Was it real, or just paranoia creeping in again? We finally reached my house, breathless and panting. I could sense something wasn't right. "Do you think we're safe here?" Sarah asked, turning back to me, still breathing heavily. "I don't know," I admitted, "but if my location is really on that tracker, they'll come." "Then we need to figure out how to disable it," Ben suggested, urgency rising in his voice. I nodded, spotting my camera gear scattered across the hallway. "Let's see if it's linked to my phone." But as I hurried inside, I could feel the weight of something heavy in the air. The unease that had gripped me since this began sharpened with each passing moment. The house was eerily silent. "Hello?" I called, the echoing sound more haunting than comforting. Each time I turned, I felt the shadows dance behind me. What had I let into my life, and could I really face it? As we began rummaging through my bags for the camera and AirTag, a cold wind swept through the house, extinguishing the light. It plunged us into darkness, again. I could hear it, footsteps behind us, taunting yet distant. "You think I'm gone?" That voice rang out, deep and sinister. "You've only bought yourself time." I felt that familiar surge of dread, but in that moment one thing was clear. No matter how many questions remained unanswered, I was done living in fear. "Let's do this," I whispered to Ben and Sarah. Together, we confronted the darkness, knowing whatever lay ahead was bound to test not just our will to survive, but everything we believed. And still, I had no idea where the path would lead or what was real. Some mysteries lingered as we opened the door to the next phase, and I couldn't shake the feeling that even in our escape, we had only scratched the surface of a scenario drenched in shadows. Only time would tell where my fear would lead me next.